So you don't have to talk about where you've been in order to justify where you are. There are some simple things that we would encourage, and they're so simple that people think that they are not effective, but they are. Get outside more, drink more water, and move your body more, and do more fun things. Just look for reasons to feel good, really. Get a little wastebasket about this tall, about this big around. And the coasters, if you get, the coasters have to be pliable.
They have to have beads on them.
Yeah, because that makes a really good balance. And then they don't break furniture if you miss. Really, just lighten up, all of you, and don't make such a big deal of things. And understand that if you are depressed, if you are not feeling good, it's only because you've been practicing vibrations that depression is depriving. Depression and depriving are the same thing. Depression is my label. But the vibrational stance that is behind that is I've been consistently choosing thoughts that my source doesn't join me in. And it's usually thoughts of not enoughness at myself or thoughts of inadequacy of others. It's easy to practice yourself into thoughts that your inner being doesn't join you in. And it's not because your inner being isn't trying to join you. In fact, we really want you to hear this. You could not be depressed if the source within you were not offering to you and through you a very high-flying vibration that you're blocking. Because emotion is twofold. It's what you're summoning and it's what you're allowing. So if you had not summoned a very strong emotion that you were blocking, then you couldn't feel that strong way, you see. And so what happened with the sleep disorder and then the subsequent remedy is that it got you focused upon breathing. Mm-hmm. It got you focused upon breathing. And when you focus on breathing, you will distract yourself from the nitpicking, and we really mean that. We don't want you to feel like we are not understanding or appreciating the contrast that you've been living. But we want to call that for all of you, no matter what it is that's bothering you, we want to call it minuscule and nitpicking and unnecessary. We want you to cut it out. We want you to stop making big deals out of things that aren't big deals in order to be understood by those around you. We want you to just decide that you have the ability in any moment in time to try to look at it in a way that feels a little better or to try to look at it in a way that feels a little worse. And you know what we're talking about. Sometimes you're just oriented toward making things worse than they are. And sometimes you're oriented toward making things better than they are. And when you understand that the source within you is always solution oriented, and anytime you take a different tack than solution oriented, you're going to get crossways of your energy. And when you're crossways of your energy, you're going to feel some form of negative emotion that's going to go all the way from just a feeling of discomfort to a feeling of overwhelmment to a feeling of depression. It's a sliding scale. And that sliding scale is all about how much energy you've summoned and how much you're blocking with your current thought. Not your thought yesterday, not your thought last week, your current thought. But as we said earlier, your current thought is a lot about what you were thinking about before and before and before and before and before. In other words, your brain isn't a storage cabinet. You're not holding those vibrations within you. They are vibrations that you are activating. It's sort of like any of your electronic mechanisms. They're not always broadcasting and they're not always receiving. And you aren't either. You're not always broadcasting and you're not always receiving. When you're slumbering, you're not attracting to this physical point of attraction. But when you are awake, you are broadcasting, and what you're broadcasting is coming back in many forms. You have the ability to get a handle on this. When we come back from segment of refreshment, we'll talk more about some easy processes if you are wanting them. Everything that you want, everything that all of you want is in your vortex. And so when we approach you in a gathering like this, it is our intention to create an environment where it is most likely for you all to get to where you want to be. That's really the work that we are doing all of the time, whether it's in a forum like this where we are articulating through Esther, or whether we are just offering our vibrational input to what all of you are about, you see. Now, whether anyone else got it or not, it was really meaningful to you because you lived it, and we've been saying for a while that words don't teach. It's only life experience that teaches. But when life experience enhances something that you are intellectually contemplating, then there can be added bonus to the understanding, you see. And so the only value, and we don't mean to diminish it, but it really is the only value of a teacher like ourselves in a format like this, is that we can through the framework or the structure of this gathering, we can accomplish simultaneous focusing. And when there is simultaneous focusing from those like you who are powerfully wanting, then the vortex yields more and more of you are receiving what you are wanting. This is the thing that we really want to punctuate with this. When we say ask and it is given, that's true all the time, every time, no exceptions. So what is it that makes something like that make you receive more? In other words, it's always been potentially there for you to receive, but there's something that's changed in your expectation that makes you receive it more clearly. The source within you is working always, and working meaning focusing always, to assist you through the path of least resistance to get the most that you are wanting in any moment in time. All of you. All of you. There's never a moment that you should be depriving yourself of anything that you want. It should be a moment of clarity or a moment of fun or a moment of insight, a moment of some sort of satisfaction. That's the way it is supposed to be. Esther made a note to herself last night. She bought an app for her iPhone. It's really fun. It's called Flow. And it's dots that you line, and you can't leave anything open. And at first it's really easy, and then it gets more and more complicated. And Esther, she thought it out loud, and then she wrote it down because it tickled her so much to think it. She said, either these are getting easier, or I'm getting better at it. Either this game is getting easier, or I'm getting better at it. And when she wrote it, we said, isn't it the same thing? When you raise your vibration, isn't it easier, and aren't you better at everything? It's the same thing. So what made her better at it, and what made it easier? Focus, having fun with it. New insights started coming to her. New pathways started opening. And things that were scrambling her brain only yesterday just look like very easy things to solve today. So am I getting better at this, or is it easier? And we say, it's exactly the same thing. When you start relaxing and trusting in your worthiness, which means expecting good things to come to you, then you open all kinds of doors that you had barred, and you let all kinds of unseen forces assist you in ways that you were preventing before. And you can call that waking up if you want to. We think it is the time of awakening. And what that means to us, if we were standing in your physical shoes, more than anything, is it's the time that I'm listening for my own alignment and not trying to seek alignment through any other means. And for Esther, the person she was seeking it through had to take off before she discovered it truly, you see. Now, we're not saying that that's why he left, but we are saying it was a big benefit to her. It would be so helpful to you if you could just know how many of us and how many of those who you love and know are eager about what you're doing, and that you have joyful access to their insight all the time, that you are not receiving the benefit of because you block it with your misunderstanding about where they are, about what they're doing, about what they're like, about what they want, about what you're doing, about why you're here. In other words, there are so many misunderstandings. So let's set it all straight. We are all in this together. We are all consciousness. You are on the leading edge of thought. You are on the leading edge of creation. Everything that you are doing is of interest to all of us. You can't get it wrong. The contrast only helps you to decide more. And we are all constantly renewing ourselves into this physical realm. The majority of us who are non-physical are remaining non-physical as energy and consciousness that is supporting the consciousness that is that which is you. And there is little separation and not a distinction worth noting between that which is you in your consciousness and that which is us in our consciousness. We are all so in this together. When you are positive, when you feel good, when you're tuned in, the more specific you are, better it feels. So when you have taken the time to meditate, when you've made your list of positive aspects, when you're in love with life, when you're in love with you, when you are feeling good, and you get focused upon what matters to you, and we join you, you have a high-flying, energetic, passionate, good-feeling experience that attracts others that are like you, and it's so good for you, and it's so good for us. If you don't feel so good, then go general. So the worse you feel, the more general you want to go, because going general will cause you to diffuse the attraction of the unwanted energy. And then once you find that sort of neutral place, then your vibration will begin to raise automatically. Unless you're doing that thing you do. It's like the cork under the water. It's only under there if you're holding it under. When you let it go, it's going to bob back up. So your natural inclination is that high-flying frequency. But the way you said, if I need assistance, you were focused upon the need and holding that cork under the water. And so many people are in that place of need, that place of start again. The reason that more people don't understand about this non-physical energy and all of this non-physical assistance is because they've been convincing one another that they are unworthy beings here to prove some sort of worthiness. And when you start from that premise, you cut yourself off from the resources that make you soar. It's never a good idea to throw you all in one basket and call it all one thing. But that's really a basis that so many people have found them to. In your comparative nature, because instead of getting inside the vibration and establishing the vibration of your grid so that what's in your vortex can flow in inspiration, instead what most people are doing is, as we were talking about earlier with our friend, should I do that or that or that? They're sorting the piles and they're holding themselves in a sort of vibration of mediocrity that is keeping them from being who they really are. If you will leave this gathering and you will contemplate just this handful of things. Okay, I think I'm a vibrational being. I get that. And I focus my vibration through thought. So I'm going to do my best to focus on things that excite me. Not things that I should do, not things that I must do, not things that I have to do. Not things that I think I've done wrong, not things that other people think I've done wrong, not things that I think other people are doing wrong. In other words, if you just cut that out, your vibrations would raise instantaneously. But as we said earlier, you can't just cut out the thought patterns that you've had. And so what we seek to do in an environment like this is we want to awaken within you an understanding that this negative emotion that I may be feeling in any moment is there for one reason only. And that is, I'm off track from who I am. I'm looking at this in a way the larger part of me isn't looking at it. So I'm cutting myself off from the resources that I want. Do you go to a party to fill time? Or do you go to a party to have fun? Do you get in a conversation just to make the day pass faster? Or do you get into a conversation to stimulate interest? And that's what we wish for you. We wish for you to find shiny beaded things and lob them into things that are meaningful to you. We wish for you to care so much about this hour that you're not willing to squander it on an old unhappy memory, or that you're not willing to squander it on some subject that your inner being won't join you in. We want this to be an hour that you want to live as fully as you can. And as you start approaching life in that way, what you will discover is there are a whole lot of us really good at a whole lot of things. Really good at a whole lot of things. How is it that little kids that have never lobbed anything at anything in that way before could do it so well? How can they do it? Because they were tuned in, tapped in, turned on. Their hand-eye coordination, their inner beings within them. It was really a beautiful thing to experience. All of us had fun. And it was as meaningful as world peace. It was as meaningful as finding cures to things. It was as meaningful as anything that any of you will live. You just have to accept that you're worthy and that non-physical cares and that now is the moment where you can hook up or not. And that you have to care enough that this be one of those moments that you're willing to go after it as one of those moments. And you come into this attitude of being unwilling to squander your life on less meaningful things, because once you've found something really meaningful, you must have that meaningful thing. You cannot go back. You cannot ever go back to less than you have lived. And the little ones still remember that it's supposed to be fun. Many of you have resigned yourself to accepting that it isn't supposed to be fun, but it is, it really is, you see. Really good.
Yeah, thank you very much.